Okay, so we've gotten through your website start, and now we've got to take some time and talk about what we're publishing, how to make sure that we're safe, and making sure that we're respectful of not just our privacy, but anybody else's privacy too. So, today, what we're going to talk about first is something called digital footprint. And I want you to make sure you've got your journals out because we've got to put a little bit of a definition down here. Okay, pause the video as you need to. So, first things first. Okay, now you don't have to jot this down, but what I want you to do is talk at your table groups for a little bit. And I want you to think of 2 or 3 websites that you have accounts on and what kind of information could someone learn about you by looking at these websites and looking at your interactions on them. So, on your market set go, take about a minute and see what kind of things you come up with. Now, if we were talking about social media, especially, there's an awful lot that people could start to learn about you. And actually, today we're going to think about what kinds of things should we post? What should we be safe about? And those kinds of things. So, the first thing that I want you to write down is something called digital footprint. Footprint. You've probably heard of different kinds of footprints, like carbon footprints and things. But a digital footprint has to do with what kind of information can you get pieced together about you by combining together your presence and what you've posted and things you've done online. Okay, so a formal definition is going to look like this. Okay, collected information. You don't even necessarily have to say collected, I would just say information about somebody, an individual, across multiple websites. Okay, this could also be apps, okay, on the internet. Okay, taking all of that information, piecing it together, and coming up with your presence on the internet. Pause it if you need to get all of this information down. Okay, so I would guess those of you that have a smartphone probably have some kind of social media. Definitely your parents do. And so I would say, as you're starting to think about these kinds of things, um, has your a family member, grandma, parent, even a friend, has somebody ever posted something about you without your permission? Whether it's a picture, comment, something. My kids are very, very vocal about that with me. And now, especially that I have grandkids, I always ask permission first. But you should always be very aware not to post anything about anybody else unless you have their permission. Okay. So, this is kind of what we're going to talk about today. The first worksheet that I'm going to have you start thinking about is going to have a number of categories or topics and then a number of different audiences. So let's take a moment, get this worksheet passed out, and then you can take some time and go through this one. This one's called When Does Your Privacy Matter? Okay, so before we even get into the directions here, I want you to look across the top. These are various audiences, okay, starting with a parent or guardian, sibling, grandparent, aunt, uncle, some other relatives. So we start with relatives. Then we kind of get into school. So you've got teacher, best friend, and then you have different situations with best friend. You're talking in person or you're communicating digitally. You have a classmate. You're talking in person or you're communicating digitally, whether that's like messaging through Schoology, something like that. And then here's the last one, someone you've never met before, but who may ask you this question in person. Now, when on earth would that happen? Oh, I just think like if you're standing in line at the store or something like that. Okay. And then Here's this last level, someone you haven't met before, and they ask you a question digitally off of some post or something. All right, so those are the audiences. And then down the side, these are all of the different topics: movie, a picture, your favorite teacher, your home address, cell phone number, your email address, a person that's your secret crush, an embarrassing moment of you on video, and your online search history. Okay, now here are the directions. Put an X in each box in the table where you would not be comfortable with that person knowing. Okay, so you're going to put X's where you're like, no, not at all. All right. You're going to take a few minutes to do this. Then we'll kind of bring it all back together to talk about where you think, for you, where were most of your X's. And then on the back side, there are some reflection questions. So go ahead and start filling this out. Take maybe 4 or 5 minutes and then start talking with your table mates about what did you feel comfortable with, what didn't you feel comfortable with, and so on.